Good evening, everyone. Tonight's Committee of Adjustment hearing is being held by video conference and live stream video on the town's live stream webpage at oakville.ca. This is a hearing to consider applications for minor variance and consents held under the authority of the Planning Act. Please keep in mind the intent of this process is to review the application that is before the committee, listen to the evidence, and then make a decision. This process is not intended to be used to resolve any concerns or disputes that may exist between the town, individuals, or organizations. If a request for a deferral is made and the committee grants such a request, the applicant or authorized agent must contact the Secretary Treasurer to schedule a new hearing date. In order to conduct an effective and efficient electronic hearing, we have adopted the following process. If you are watching the live stream of this hearing on oakville.ca and you wish to speak to an item on the agenda, you can call 905-815-6095. Again, that's 905-815-6095. The phone number will also be posted at the live stream page at oakville.ca. Staff will be standing by to take your call, and when you call in, staff will ask for your name, item number that you wish to address, and your telephone number. Further instructions will be provided for you to call back and join the video conference. When the chair of the committee polls for interested parties, you'll have to press *6 to unmute yourself. The applicant agent will then be given the opportunity to briefly explain to the committee the basis of their application, answer any questions that may arise. A maximum of 5 minutes will be provided for each presentation. You will need to state your full name and address for the record, and any submissions beyond the 5 minutes will be at the discretion of the committee. All delegations must also state their full name and address for the record. A maximum of 5 minutes is provided for each presentation. All remarks and questions are to be directed to the chair, and any submissions beyond the 5 minutes will be at the discretion of the committee. The applicant or agent will then be provided with a further 5 minutes to respond to any comments made by interested parties, answer questions from the committee members, and if the applicant or agent has any concerns found in staff report, particularly with any proposed conditions, this will be the opportunity to advise us. The matter will then be taken into committee for a decision, and this will mark the end of all discussions. Any person desiring a notice of the decision for an application must provide a written request, preferably through email, to the Secretary Treasurer. Written notices of the committee's decision will be mailed no later than 10 days for minor variance and 15 days for consent to the applicant and agent and any other person who has filed a written request for such notice. The last day to appeal the decision to the Ontario Land Tribunal will be noted on the decision. Please note that only the applicant, specified persons or bodies, public bodies, may appeal to the committee's decision to the Ontario Land Tribunal. In November of 2022, the Bill 23 legislation, the More Homes Build Faster Act, amended the Planning Act to remove appeal rights for members of the public. If no appeal is received within the prescribed timeframe, the decision of the committee becomes final and binding, and the Secretary Treasurer will then notify the applicant and anyone who received a copy of the decision through written correspondence. People participating in this hearing are to be courteous to and respectful of the members of the committee, town staff, and the other people participating in this electronic hearing. Tonight's electronic hearing is being video recorded and available for future viewing at oakville.ca. Thank you. I'm hearing background noise. I'd appreciate if people can put their mics on mute unless they are speaking. Okay. We have no regrets this evening. Do I have any declaration of pecuniary interests? I see none. Do I have any requests for deferrals or withdrawals of applications, Madam Secretary? If anyone is in the audience who seeks to defer an application, please raise your hand and the Secretary Treasurer will invite you to speak.
Madam Chair, I see no hands up at this time.
Okay.
Oh, I do see one hand up now.
Okay.
I believe he is a resident here to speak to one of the applications, however.
Okay, we haven't called any applications yet, so
No.
just hang tight. Um, we have no consent applications. Okay, the first application on our agenda this evening is application 145 of 2025 at 238 Riverside Drive. Again, that's application 145 of 2025 at 238 Riverside Drive.
Hello, Madam Chair. Peter from David Small Designs. Can you hear me?
Go ahead, Mr. Giordano.
Thank you. Good evening, Madam Chair, committee members. David Small Designs, 1405 Cornwall Road in Oakville. If I could start by please requesting your consideration on an edit to be made to the wording on the approved permit notice, please. We were sent an email on Monday of this week by our application coordinator, Jen, noting that there was a typo in the approved public notice that was circulated. The variance request description stated that the application is to permit the construction of a new two-story dwelling, when in fact it should be described as to permit the construction of a two-story addition to the existing dwelling with a new front and rear porch on the subject property. It does not affect the requested variances or application information submitted by us, including the drawings, just a description in the notice. We were asked to make that statement so you could vote on that revision if you can consider that.
Yes, we're aware of that, Mr. Giordano. Madam Secretary Treasurer, would you like me to proceed with this in the beginning or towards the end when we move a motion?
Towards the end, Madam Chair, when you move a motion. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, thank you, Mr. Giordano. You may proceed with your application presentation.
Perfect, thank you. So if the moderator can just quickly display slide number 2 from my presentation material, please. Thank you. We're here today to request your consideration on one variance item, that being the front yard setback. We're retaining the two-story home with the attached garage, and then we're adding a two-story addition on the rear of the house. We're also adding a covered porch in the rear and a porch on the front of the house. As you can see on my slide, the variance is a direct result of the front porch addition. If you want to see that in a 3D view, slide number 4 will show you the front facade, the way it looks with the front porch added to the front. We believe it's nicely fit into the character of the street. The front porch has 2 center columns that project forward 16 inches beyond the main structure of the front porch. The variance dimension requested is measured from that front step projection that requires an 8.54 meter variance item for that being the front yard, and I've indicated that with the red arrow on the image that you see on the screen. Retaining the main front wall of the house, we believe this proposal to be consistent with the intent of that front yard setback bylaw. We acknowledge and fully understand the conditions of approval recommended by planning staff. Unless you have any questions, that concludes my presentation. Thank you for your time and patience and consideration.
Thank you, Mr. Giordano. Does anyone have any questions or items of clarification for Mr. Giordano at this time? Okay, I see none. Madam Secretary, has anyone called in with interest for this application?
No, Madam Chair, there have been no calls and no one online has their hand up.
Very well, and we'll take the matter into committee. Before we move a motion, I'd like to just reiterate what Mr. Giordano had said, that for this application, the variance requested should have stated that under section 45(1) of the Planning Act, the applicant is requesting the Committee of Adjustment to authorize a minor variance to permit a two-story addition to the existing dwelling with a new front and rear porches on the subject property, proposing the following variance the zoning bylaw of 2014-114, which is to reduce the minimum front yard to 8.54 meters. Who would like to move a motion? Go ahead, Ms. Price. You're muted.
Yep. Okay. Taking into consideration my site visit, summation of the agent, owner, and town staff, I believe the proposed variance meets the four tests of the Planning Act, maintaining the general intent and purpose of the official plan, maintaining the general intent and purpose of the zoning bylaw, is desirable for the appropriate development of the land, and is minor in nature. As there is no letters of opposition, I recommend the application be approved subject to the following condition. The addition be constructed in general accordance with the submitted site plan dated September 15th, 2025, and elevation drawings dated May 2025, and that the approval expires 2 years from the date of the decision if a building permit has not been issued for the proposed construction.
Thank you, Ms. Price. Is there a discussion on this recommendation? Okay, all those in support? Okay, the application has been approved, none opposed.
Wonderful, thank you.
You're welcome. Have a good evening. Okay, application 146 of 2025 at 511 Wildwood Drive. Again, that's application 146 of 2025 at 511 Wildwood Drive. I have a request to attend from Mr. Simon and Priya Giffen.
Good evening.
Good evening, Mr. Kieran. Go ahead.
Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the committee. My name is Joris Kieran. I'm the agent for this application and for the owner. This application is seeking a singular variance for floor area, RFA. Before I go into the brief slide presentation, I just wanted to say that as the committee is probably aware, the staff report described that we went through some revisions as a result of the pre-consultation. So I just wanted to make the committee members aware and make sure that they're aware that what you're being presented with tonight is sort of a scaled back, reduced version of what was originally presented. So we did already have quite a bit of dialogue and back and forth with staff to reach this point, and now they've indicated they're happy and supportive of this. So just wanted to kind of describe that journey a little bit. So it's a two-story single family dwelling, similar to lots of ones we've done in the past in this area. This is the site plan here on slide 1. Pretty straightforward. All the setbacks are being met. And the house is sitting, nestled into the streetscape very nicely. I'll go to the next slide, please. So as mentioned, the only variance being requested is the extra square footage. And as I normally do, I like to just identify approximately where these areas are occurring. This home is being built for the owner and his family. He's intending to live there long term. It's not a home for resale. So there were certain amenities that he was looking to have included in the house. Amongst those are the spice kitchen, a full bathroom on the main floor, including a shower, and then a small formal living room. So that is the majority of the square footage that's causing the overage. If we go to the third slide, please. And then just a small accommodation for a laundry facility on the second floor. And I'll go to the fourth slide, please. And this is the front elevation. So the massing has been substantially reduced from the original version. The front portico was lowered, and a little bit more articulation was added to help break up that massing, to gain support from planning on this application. That concludes my presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions if there are any.
Thanks, Mr. Kieran. Any questions or items of clarification of Mr. Kieran at this time? Has anyone raised their hand, Madam Secretary, to speak to the matter?
Yes, Madam Chair, I have one hand up at this time. Would you like me to move him in?
Yes, please.
Okay, it's Jason Camara. One moment.
Oh, someone different than the, okay. Good
Hello?
evening, Mr. Camara. Can you please your address for the record, please?
Yes, 515 Wildwood Drive. So I'm the neighbor.
Okay.
And I'd like to first thank preemptively for the accommodation of letting me be here. And I apologize in advance because I'm not the most well informed. I'm not sure what exactly is a reasonable question or request, but I do have some concerns for the family that lives in 515. The first question is in terms of like when the construction is occurring, will there be any fencing put up to protect our property? Because it looks like you're filling up the space and we're worried about like privacy and just like keeping I'm trying to keep to just this property, but there's been a lot of like dirt and muck about in like the driveways and stuff. So we're trying to like be proactive in this instance of like very clear about like just keep it off our lawn, keep it off our driveways, and keep it off our property. Because it was bad enough when it was on our street, but now that it's right next to us, we're really concerned. And then the second question I have is about the driveway. How I'm not sure how many cars this person has, because I can tell you right now the property, there's like I don't know how many people living in there, but there's like 5 or 6 cars, and that driveway does not accommodate them, and they're parking on the curb. They're taking up the side of the street. So, again, I apologize if this is unrelated, but I'm just wondering if there's any way to have these concerns addressed, or how that's being accounted for in the development of this property, if that makes sense.
No, it makes perfect sense. Thank you for your questions. We'll get Mr. Kieran to respond to those questions, and go ahead, Mr. Kieran.
Sure. I mean, I'm sure the committee's aware these aren't really pertaining to the variances or zoning matters, but I'm happy to try and answer the question. So, we don't control the on-site construction activity, but generally, all the builders that we deal with do put full fencing, temporary construction fencing around each project. So, and that includes like a filter fabric to prevent dust from, spilling over. So that's what we typically see. And I would assume, and I would have no reason to believe that wouldn't be done here. So that should help mitigate the dust as much as possible. In terms of the driveway, whoever's living there now, I believe the house is rented out to a temporary short-term tenant. So that has little to do with what will, the family that's actually moving in there. That's 2 different sets of people. So the family that's building this house is a 4-person family, I believe. So that's the extent of it.
Okay. Mr. Camara, there is no driveway variance, so they can fit however many cars they want on their driveway, so long as it doesn't spill out. There is some bylaw enforcement on the streets if you have any concerns, if your street happens to be one of those. And the same thing goes for debris or noise. You can always call the bylaw enforcement with any of your concerns. I hope we've answered your questions.
Sorry, I'm not sure if I can speak again, but yes, thank you very much.
You're very welcome. Okay, anyone else waiting to speak to the committee, Madam Secretary Treasurer?
Madam Chair, I do not see any hands up at this time.
Okay. We'll take the matter into committee then. Who would like to move a motion? Go ahead, Mr. Tarowski.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, I move that this application be approved as applied for. I find that it meets the Fortesta Planning Act. I believe there's sufficient articulation in the design to mitigate any impact that might occur from the small increase in floor area. I would note that we did hear from a resident. One of his items was, as Madam Chair, you indicated, more process than variance related. But maybe just to put him at ease a little with respect to parking, from the site plan, it looks like that driveway is going to hold at least 4 cars, if not more, plus the 2 in the garage. So there looks like there's going to be sufficient parking. Madam Chair, I would make that approval subject on 2 conditions: that the dwelling be constructed in general accordance with site plan and elevations dated September 29th, 2025, and that the variance expires if the building permit hasn't issued within 2 years.
Thank you, Mr. Tarowski. Is there a discussion on this recommendation? I see none. All those in support? Okay, the application has been approved, none opposed.
Thank you very much.
Have a good evening.
You too.
Application 148 of 2025 at 252 Winford Place. Again, it's application 148 of 2025 at 252 Winford Place. I have Sarah Corba here as the agent.
Hi, good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Good evening, Madam Chair and member of committee. My name is Sarah. I represent the homeowner for 252 Winford Place. Thank you for taking the time to review and hear our application. The owner is proposing to construct an addition above the existing garage to create a more functional and comfortable living space. The current layout is no longer meets the owner long-term needs in the space and accessibility. So we are proposing to increase the total floor area from 126 meters square to 145.32 meters square. The proposed addition is small in scale and it's not going to affect the lot coverage or the landscape because it's going to be added on the top of the existing garage. We would like to note that several nearby properties on Winford Place, such as 255, 261, and 256 Winford Place, have received an approval for similar floor area increase. And those additions have not altered the established character of the neighborhood. In light of those considerations, we respectfully submit that the requested variance is merit in nature, maintain the intent of zoning bylaw, and represent a desirable and appropriate development for the property. We thank the committee for its time and consideration, and if you have any questions or comments, we'll be happy to address.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Corba. Any questions or items of clarification at this time? Yeah, I see that. Ms. Price?
Yes, when I went on my site visit, I noticed that it's already being constructed. So did the variance was the variance after or before the construction?
So we already have a permit with the city for the interior alteration. And then we applied for the second permit for constructing the addition. But we were not aware that there is a variance that we're supposed to be added to and apply for committee of adjustment for that variance. So once we applied for the second permit and the variance came in, they stopped the work and we had to do the committee of adjustment to get an approval for that variance in order for us to continue the work. And that's the situation we're in right now. Actually, I do notice that the notice we received 2 days ago, I believe, it does state that the construction is supposed to follow the drawing that were submitted on October. The only thing I want to ask that those drawings we received, once we applied, we received the variance of the floor area. And there was other comment that we were required to address regarding structural, nothing regarding the floor area. So we had to address those structural comments, HVAC comments, and we resubmitted, I believe 2 weeks ago or maybe last week to the city. But we did not change anything regarding the floor area. The floor area variance is still the same. So I'm wondering how that gonna like like can we submit a revision to the permit as long as the area it's still the same, or the drawing has to follow the October drawing we submitted, even though we received comment from examiners to address? Does that make sense?
Makes sense. I'm not sure though what the answer would be.
Well, we would pass the variance based on these drawings, but if your drawings go back to the building permit and they ask you to change things, then you'll have to do that. Am I correct, Mr. Hardcastle?
If I understood the agent correctly, she indicated that the structural drawings were modified and internal drawings like the HVAC drawings, etc. And if I understand the conditions correctly, the first condition speaks to in general accordance, so it does afford some room, but also to the submitted site plan and elevation drawings. So that would be exclusive, perhaps, and maybe we can have the agent and staff confirm for us if it resulted in any changes to the site plan and elevations, because that's all we'd be looking at here tonight.
Sounds good. So yeah, we have not changed anything.
Hold on 1 second, please. I'm sorry to interrupt you. Ms. Collin, you have your hand up.
Yeah, thank you through you, Chair. And just further to Committee Member Hardcastle's comment, as long as the site plan and the elevation drawings have not changed and the only alterations as a result of their building permit that's in process are internal, then I believe the conditions as they're written are still aptly applied. So I'll let the agent speak to that question.
Yes, so the elevation is still the same, site plan is still the same, there is no changes. It's only interior changes, which is related to, I believe the examiner asked for footing plan, which is we were not showing footing plan on our drawings, so we added footing plan. They asked for the header above a window, to confirm the header above a window. Ask about the beam size. So everything is structural and some is just related to calculation in HVAC, that's all.
Okay, that answers our questions. As long as your elevation drawings and site plans dated October 14, 2025 have not changed, then we're okay to proceed. Any other questions or any clarifications? Has anyone called with interest for this application, Madam Secretary Treasurer?
No, Madam Chair, there have been no calls and nobody online that's present has their hand up.
Very well, then we'll take the matter into committee. Who would like to move a motion? Go ahead, Mr. Hardcastle.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Having undertaken my site visit, having reviewed the materials, including the written staff report, having heard the presentation, and seen some questions resolved, I'm satisfied that the requested variance conforms to the four tests of the Act. I don't believe that the addition of GFA over the existing garage will significantly impact upon the character of the area. And I don't believe that and I believe that it would conform to the four tests of the Act. Accordingly, I'll put forward a motion of approval. That motion would be subject to two conditions, those being that the dwelling be constructed in general accordance with the submitted site plan and elevation drawings dated October 14th, 2025, and that the approval expires within 2 years of the date of the decision if a building permit has not been issued. I would note that, sorry, I would note there were no members of the public present with respect to this matter. Sorry, Madam.
No, thank you. Is there a discussion on this recommendation? I see none. All those in support? Okay, the application has been approved. None opposed.
Thank you so much.
Have a good evening.
You too.
Application 149 of 2025 at 1306 Lakeshore Road West. Again, that's application 149 at 2025. Oh, sorry, at 1306 Lakeshore Road West. Mr. Paul Demchuk. Good evening. Go ahead.
Thank you. Just briefly, again, my name is Paul Demchuk with Patori Planning and Management. I'm here on behalf of the applicant for 1306 Lakeshore Road West. Just briefly, the development proposes to demolish the existing two-story residential dwelling and garage to construct a new 596 square meter two-story dwelling on the property. You can see here just on this slide, this is just the front rendering, an image of the proposed building. Next slide, please. So this is just an aerial photo of the existing context. I'll just briefly note for the benefit of the committee, while many waterfront properties in Oakville are afforded significantly deep lots, this specific section of Lakeshore Road West within the town includes a series of more, I'll call it wide, shallow lots, with some existing dwellings located fairly close to the lake. You can see in this image the existing two-story dwelling and detached garage. The garage is notably on the south side of the property, and the detached dwelling on the north side exists on the property. West of the site is the Oakville Southwest Water Treatment Plant, as well as Sedgwick Forest. And then south of the site are a series of detached dwellings. And then you can see just on the north side of the property is an existing culvert and drainage outlet. And then further north are another series of single detached dwellings. Next slide, please. So a total of 5 variances are proposed to accommodate the proposed dwelling, some of which are triggered due to the required setbacks from Lake Ontario. And in the following series of slides, I'll explain each of the variances briefly for the committee. Next slide, please. So this is just a site plan of the proposed development. So again, the application is proposing to demolish the existing two-story single detached dwelling, and it's to construct one new two-story single detached dwelling. A singular driveway access is proposed, which you can see is 3.6 meters wide at the mouth of the driveway entrance, and is intended to retain, and is designed that way, sorry, because it's intended to retain all existing municipal trees within the public right-of-way. The dwelling is located towards the center and front of the subject site, allowing ample setbacks from the lake, which are required to meet both the stable toe of slope and slope stability requirements of the Conservation Authority. I will note in the recommendation report that a permit has been issued by the Conservation Authority for this proposed setback limit. Next slide, please. So here are just a series of front and rear elevations of the proposed dwelling. again, which I'll note has been designed as a wide, shallow dwelling to fit the lot fabric and given the Conservation Authority required setbacks from the lake. I'll note that the front facade of the dwelling is characterized by a series of large rectangular windows situated across both floors. And the flat roof incorporates a bit of a tier design to accentuate the front entry as a focal point for the front facade. I'll just briefly note the rear elevation proposes tall rectangular windows and obviously to promote the natural light and views to Lake Ontario. Next slide. These are just the respective side elevations for the proposed dwelling. I'll just note in particular the north elevation features a side entrance to the private garage, which I'll come back to in a brief moment. Next slide, please. So this slide just pertains to the minimum front yard setback. So the current streetscape and lotting pattern of dwellings along this segment of Lakeshore Road generally varies in response to the variety and uniqueness of both lot sizes and shapes. As shown in the image on the left, there are a range of front yard setbacks that exist in this section of Lakeshore Road West. And I'll just note that the majority of lots that are highlighted are deficient from the required front yard setbacks of the zoning bylaw. Further, there's an existing privacy wall in the front of the property, as well as we've tried to design the driveway and dwelling to protect all existing trees, as I've noted within the municipal right-of-way. And the image on the right is a rendering that's drawn to scale, which depicts how the dwelling will interact from a streetscape perspective and mitigate impacts of that reduced front yard setback. Next slide, please. Just regarding the side yard setback, this only pertains to the south side of the proposed dwelling. I'll note that the majority of the dwelling complies or exceeds with the bylaw requirement for the side yard setback. However, there is this one pinch point at the corner of the dwelling which does encroach into that required side yard. This south side yard setback still maintains appropriate access and maintenance requirements, as well as provides for adequate separation distance to the adjacent dwelling. Further, I'll just note that parking and vehicular access is sufficiently accommodated within the north side yard setback, for which no variance is required. Next slide. Just briefly on the height. Obviously, the intent of the maximum building height is to limit potential for impacts related to overlook, shadow, and loss of sky view on adjacent properties. The maximum height obviously does exceed the 9 meters, but I will note that based on the design, most of the dwelling is compliant with the required height. It's just that you can see highlighted in red on this image. It's the only portion of the proposed height that exceeds the bylaw requirements. And from my perspective, does not impact any of the adjacent properties or provide any negative overlook or shadow impacts. Next slide, please. Just in terms of the garage area, so the intent of the garage area provision is to mitigate impacts of garages on the streetscape. And in this instance, the streetscape impacts are mitigated as the garage is entered through a sidewall condition, and the garage entrance provides for appropriate facade treatment at the frontage of the dwelling, which obviously looks like the balance of the proposed home. Next slide, please. And I'll just note the last variance being the driveway width. Obviously, the maximum driveway width regulation is intended to ensure that vehicular access can be provided without impacts to providing too much hard surface treatment or the driveway dominating the front yard of a given property, as well as to mitigate streetscape impacts. In this case, the driveway, again, it's located on the north side or right-hand side of this image of the dwelling. And as the garage is accessed from the side lot line, there are no impacts from a streetscape perspective from my perspective. Next slide, please. So just in brief conclusion, the proposed development, it replaces an existing detached dwelling within an urban area and is compatible with the character and scale of dwellings in this specific section of Lakeshore Road West. I did note one letter of objection from the neighbor to the north in this instance. And I would like to note that there were some items, including the number of dwelling units and setbacks that may have misinterpreted. And I hope that some components of this presentation assist in responding to those. but I would be more than happy to assist in providing any additional items of clarification as required by the committee. So just briefly on this basis, it is my opinion that development satisfies the four tests for a minor variance under the Planning Act and does represent good planning. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Demchak. Are there any questions or items of clarification of Mr. Demchak at this time? Go ahead, Mr. Dickey.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Plain and simple. I don't like the frontage aspect. You're just cramming that house right up against the road. Now I realize I'm not concerned about the 1.7 that's underground. I'm looking at the house itself, which seems to be 3 meters. The 2-story portion of the house seems to be 3 meters, 3.1 meters of the front lot line. The picture that you showed at the end of your presentation certainly doesn't indicate that was a 3.1 meter front yard in the photo that you had there. It's misleading. Where you had all this grass in your picture, it sure showed the road, Lakeshore Road. But anyhow, you mentioned in your report and in your presentation that you submitted 2 weeks ago, you went through and made a chart showing these are the houses that have a greater than 10.5 meter setback, and these are the houses that have less than 10.5 meter setback. Yeah, but you're going for a 3 meter setback on the house. And your existing setback is 6, or the bylaw allows a setback of 6 point something. Like, I want to know where, if you're going to present something like this, show me that some of these other houses on the street are also 3 meters from the front yard or 6 meters from the front yard. To me, it's irrelevant in this case that there's some, when you mention under 10.5 meters. I want to see the ones that are under 6 meters. I want to see the ones that are closer to the 3 meters where your house is going to sit. So there's my comment to you. Do you have anything to add to that? Thank you.
Thank you. Through you, Madam Chair, to Member Dickey. If I could ask the staff to just pull up, I think it's slide, it's the site plan slide 4. Thank you. So part of the rationale, and a significant portion, I'll be candid, of the rationale for locating the dwelling where it's sited is due to the required setback. You can see we have approximately 24 meters in total required setback from Lake Ontario. And that was the closest that we were permitted to locate the dwelling based on the Conservation Authority permits, as well as our discussions with our shoreline coastal engineer. As such, the dwelling, and I know I made these comments in my presentation, the dwelling is, I would suggest a very wide, shallow proposed dwelling. Any further reduction, obviously, to that, I'll call it dwelling depth, obviously significantly impacts both usability and floor area for the proposed dwelling. So that was one factor we obviously considered. You made a comment about providing for how many of these properties are less than 6 meters. I will note that this will be the closest dwelling in this segment of Lakeshore Road to the front yard within this specific area. Most of the other dwellings that are less than the 10.5 meters that I mentioned range between 7 to 9 meters. So this will be closer to the road than many of those dwellings. I will note it's only for a portion of the dwelling. Obviously, we've tried to provide for some indentations within the building to mitigate some of that streetscape and massing impact. And then the last piece that I just want to note for the benefit of the committee is that there's an existing privacy wall, which wasn't shown on that last rendering, but it is shown on the rendering with the trees. And also this property has the most amount of trees within the public right-of-way on this entire segment of Lakeshore Road, which from my perspective assists in mitigating any potential massing impacts of the dwelling. So I agree. It is closer to the road than other dwellings, and we've tried our best to mitigate those impacts through a series of design considerations.
Okay, thank you. Just another question or something to point out. When I went and looked at the other houses, the adjacent houses, most of them seem to be are one-story houses. So that's another thing, an element that I'm saying. You're building your house, you're closer to the front lot line than what the other houses are, and obviously closer than what should be allowed. And you're building a full two-story house, completely, you know, from east to west, 2 stories, as opposed to some of the others which are close, but not near as close as you are, in my opinion, close to the front lot line, and the other houses are 1 story. Just a little thing I just want to just sort out about the rear, the situation in the rear. Do you have, or do you plan to build a I don't know what they're called, the stone wall across the back to prevent erosion?
Yes, through you, Madam Chair, again to Member Dickey. Thank you for those comments. So first, I'll deal with the shore wall. There were a number of improvements that were recently made by my client to the property, even in its existing condition and significant shoreline. Again, I'm not a shoreline engineer, but yes, there were improvements already made, which would accommodate this specific proposed setback. The second piece is you made a comment about the number of dwellings that are single story versus 2 story. That is correct. I'll note that many of these properties in this segment along Lakeshore Road West have, and I made this comment at the beginning of my presentation, many of them are located fairly close to the lake, and you could never build these dwellings again in their current siting based on the requirements for the stable top of bank and toe of bank limits that are required by Conservation Halton. So this dwelling, obviously, yes, it brings the building much closer to the street, but this is the farthest we can obviously push the dwelling from a rear yard setback perspective. One of the only other dwellings I can think of that is more recently constructed and 2 stories in height would be 2 dwellings to the north, just across from the culvert that I mentioned.
So just on the wall, along the shoreline wall, my understanding from my experience that if you build a brand new shoreline wall, they say the shoreline wall has an effective date or an age of so many years, and they take that all and do a calculation. So have you improved the shoreline wall to the maximum extent to thus reduce the rear yard setback required by the Conservation Authority? In other words, is the 20 meters the minimum that you can achieve with all the engineering on a rear wall?
Through you, Madam Chair, yes, that is correct. This is the maximum that we can achieve. There was extensive work that we've been doing, frankly, over the last 1.5 years, both with our shoreline consultants, our geotechnical engineers, as well as coordinating that permit with the Conservation Authority, well in advance of obviously coming forward with a design that fits the balance, and I'll call it the net developable area of the lot, which is minimized just because of that shoreline requirements.
And sorry, just one more. So then you've got, I think, is it 20 meter shoreline lines? And then you've got another is it 4.5 meter or 4.88 meter? Who imposes that setback? Or tell me about that setback.
My understanding, yeah, thank you. Through you, Madam Chair. The 20 meter setback is the required setback from the stable toe of bank that's required. And then there's also, again, I'm not a shoreline engineer, but there's also the slope stability requirement that's in addition to that 20 meters. And that's negotiated based on obviously the condition of the wall and other obviously technical factors that I obviously can't speak to, but those were the negotiated setbacks that we work with our engineer and the Conservation Authority with.
So the Conservation Authority is also involved in that additional 4.5, 4.8 meter setback. That's not a town requirement.
That is correct.
Great, thank you.
Mr. Towski, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have questions a lot along the lines of Mr. Dickey's. Mr. Demchuk, these shoreline protections, shoreline setbacks, they're not new. They've been in existence for as long as I have been working in the town of Oakville. Part of your rationale, your response to Member Dickey was that variances are required because of the lot configuration. But the lot configuration, the frontage on the lake, none of this has changed since your client bought the property, has it?
No, it is not.
So your client's seeking to knowingly try to overbuild for the lot that they purchased. It is what this application looks like. But it's the setback. I agree with Mr. Dickey. And you've answered one of my questions, that this will be the smallest setback in the area. The plan that you put up, which showed the lots with setbacks less than 10.5 meters, they all seem to be pretty consistent setback, whether that's 6 meters or 8 meters, they were consistent. Yet you want to build a 113-foot long, 2-story wall at, or primarily the majority of it at, 3-meter setback, significantly less than every other house on the street. How am I supposed to determine that that meets the intent of the setback provision of the bylaw and that it's appropriate and desirable in this circumstance?
Thank you for you, Madam Chair. From my perspective, to accommodate any reasonable size dwelling, new dwelling on any of these properties, you're going to have to push them up, some of them, closer to the street. I agree, it will be the house that's closest to the street in this segment of Lakeshore Road West. Notwithstanding that, at least from my perspective, we've tried to mitigate some of those impacts through a series of design features. I've noted those, and I'll just maybe briefly reiterate a couple of those just for the benefit of the committee and the public. There's a reconfigured driveway design, and that driveway design is intended to obviously mitigate impacts on the streetscape, as well as from my perspective, to protect every single one of those municipal owned trees within the right of way. As I've mentioned, this property in particular, it's partially at, I'll call it the bend, where obviously there's, how do I say this best? You have a bend on the road, which provides for a bit of additional separation distance, not from the frontage of the dwelling to the front lot line, but from the frontage of the dwelling to the curb face, in comparison to some other of the dwellings within this segment of Lakeshore Road West, specifically further south. And so from my perspective, when you're looking at the overall impacts on the streetscape perspective, I do think that this dwelling appropriately addresses and ameliorates those impacts through some of those design features that I've mentioned.
When I read the livable by design guidelines, it doesn't appear to me that you've attempted to take those into account. That you could have dealt with the roof line, buried the roof line, brought the roof down to the eaves, but there's been no attempt at that. You're putting, your design is a straight 2-story wall that's 113 feet long, plus or minus 3 meters from the property line. And the only rationale I see for it in your report, and frankly, surprisingly in the staff report, is that it's hidden behind what are primarily deciduous trees. Why haven't you attempted to reduce the massing of the dwelling instead of going with a straight 2-story wall?
For the benefit of the committee, in advance of obviously us making this application to the committee, we submitted both. I made a note previously of the conservation Halton permit. There was also a pre-consultation request that we submitted, and we had a number of working discussions with planning staff, with urban design staff on some of those components and features. Again, from my perspective, there's obviously a number of ways within the design guidelines that you can implement to break up massing, to provide for perceived variation of heights. From my perspective, we've obviously tried to tier some components of that height and the building. Obviously, every client does have obviously different desires, for the architectural features that they want to implement on their own personal home. But I will say, obviously, from my perspective, and obviously noted by the staff, there was support for what we had proposed.
Thank you.
Mr. Jemczak, I have a completely different question. I see the actual site plan that we're looking at, but from your work on this property, the current concrete fence that goes across the lot, the whole property, where is that presently situated?
Thank you. If you could pull up the site plan again, staff, please. And if we could just zoom in right to the front lot line if possible. We could just scroll up a little bit. So if you can see some of those dimensions that are noted where for example, the front yard setback is, where at the very front portion of the dwelling, it says 3.01 meters and then 3.0 meters. That privacy wall, that concrete privacy wall, it's located right behind the front lot line on the property.
So it's not coming down?
No, it's not coming down. I think, in fact, my client has an appetite to improve that privacy wall. Obviously, once, well, in theory, once they proceed with the future construction of the dwelling.
Okay. Thank you for that clarification. Any other questions or items of clarification? Ms. Price? You're muted.
For clarification, is there going to be a pool as well as a hot tub included on this property?
Thank you, through you, Madam Chair. I can't speak specifically to a hot tub, but there is an intended pool in the rear yard of the dwelling. Yes.
Okay, so does that impact the setbacks at all? Like,
No, it does not. For the benefit of the committee, pools and other, like I would suggest, landscape features can still be within certain parameters of that 20-meter setback. They're still subject to permits by the Conservation Authority, as well as obviously by the town. But no, those can be located within that required setback.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Anything else? Okay. Madam Secretary Treasurer, I note there's a letter of objection. Has that individual called in and desires to speak to the committee?
Yes, Madam Chair, he is online and has his hand up.
Okay, please invite him in to speak to the committee.
Okay, he should be moving in now.
Hi there, can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead, Mr. Saltzman.
Okay. Hang on a second. I've never done this before, so it's asking me a question I have to answer. Thank you, Madam Chairman, for hearing me. Like I said, I've never done this before, and I was definitely confused by what I received in the mail. I had no idea they were asking to build a whole new
single family house, and therefore I thought they were talking about changing the garage into a house. So most of what I said about the two dwellings was misplaced. Just as a member of the public who happens to be the next door neighbor, how am I supposed to know a whole new building has been proposed? Where is their notice of that when they're getting approval for the house such that neighbors have any input? Or is this it?
Oh, this is it. It should have been clear in the notice that you received that they are proposing to demolish and rebuild a new dwelling on the premises.
Right. Well, this is not to waste your time, but let me read you. It says authorized a minor variance to permit the construction of a two-story detached dwelling. It doesn't say tear down what exists and build a huge building. And how do I get to, I mean, I'm just asking a general question of John Q. Public. How am I supposed to know that a whole new edifice is being designed and built and have anything to say about it?
Okay, so when these notices go out, the information about them is circulated, and you can always call in to ask the Committee of Adjustment. And then there are certain elements of these applications that are shared with the public, others are not. I lost my train of thought.
That's okay. I've made my point. Number one, my objections.
I understand your frustration, though. I don't mean to interrupt you, but I do understand your frustrations. You're not the first person to, call in and say, I'm not really sure I understand what's happening.
Yeah. Well, moving past that, I think the house looks beautiful. I have no problem with that. I agree with Michael and Stuart that it's damn close to the road and it is like a high wall. I don't know what that would be like, but it does seem to be very different than all the others. I don't know if there's any room to slide the whole house more towards the back. I just don't know because I don't know what 20 meters is. They have got a huge back lawn, but maybe it is only 20 meters from the water. I don't know that. They did build a whole new revetment. The question of is there a wall? They did build a whole new revetment about 2-3 years ago, which I think I heard from neighbors cost somewhere between $800,000 and $900,000 to build. Certainly, it shook my house for about 6 months and woke me up at all hours with the beep beep of trucks backing up. But as neighbors, like I said in my submission, they're never around, but they're nice people. So I don't have any objections other than what's already been expressed here. And it's a beautiful house. It won't diminish the value of my house. It'll increase the value of my house in terms of the letter I wrote. So those objections are sort of null and void.
Well, we appreciate your comments. Thank you, Mr. Salzman.
Most welcome. Thank you.
Any questions or items of clarification of either Mr. Salzman or Mr. Demchuk before we take the matter into committee? Okay, I see none. We'll take the matter into committee now. Who would like to start the discussion? Go ahead, Mr. Dickey.
You said who wants this? I'm ready to make a motion if that's what you're asking.
Yes, go ahead.
Okay,
that's usually what I say when I want to say this. Let's start the discussion.
Yeah, just the way you said it. I didn't
know. Some applications I know where it's heading, so I'm like, just let's start talking.
Okay. Based upon my review of the owner's application, the site plan, the building elevations, my site visit together with the planning staff's report and the presentation of the owner's consultant, I would put forth a motion to deny. In my opinion, obviously I'm concerned about the front yard setback. I think that is not, does not comply with the intent of the zoning bylaw, which is to consider a uniform setback from the street when we find that other adjacent properties or properties in the surrounding or up and down the street are not nearly as close to the road or to the front property line as this property is, or this house will be. We feel that there'll be the mass and scale of the house will be an imposing feature as viewed from the streetscape, and this is due to the extremely short, shallow front yard setback, together with the extensive width of the front facade and the fact that it's 2-story. So having regard to that, I put forth a motion to deny the application. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Dickey. Is there discussion on this recommendation? Mr. Tolsky.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, I'm going to support Mr. Dickey's motion. I don't believe this application meets the intent of the official plan design guidelines. I do not believe the front yard setback is minor in this context. And with the setback in the design being proposed, I do not believe that this is in any way desirable.
Thank you, Mr. Tolsky. Anyone else care to chime in? Go ahead, Mr. Hardcastle.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm aligning in with Mr. Tolowski and Mr. Dickey. This is a very, very close setback, a very tall and ultimately long facade that is in no way undertaking efforts in accordance with the design guidelines to mitigate or minimize. It is a challenging site. I do acknowledge that, but I think that there are many, many opportunities available to mitigate the impacts of this challenging site and to still be able to achieve the type of home that's warranted for this location. So I will be going along with the motion on the floor.
Thank you. Okay, so the motion is to deny the application that is set before us for the discussion reasons that have already been stated. All those in support of the denial? Okay. All those opposed? Okay. And the application has been denied. Thank you, Mr. Demchek. Mr. Saltzman, before you go, can you hear me? Do you have your notice in front of you? The notice of the public hearing? Yeah, right there. Okay, if you look at it, it explains why you're getting the notice, and then it'll tell you, it'll say that under the section of the Planning Act, that the applicant is requesting that the Committee of Adjustment authorize a minor variance to permit, and in your case, it should say a 2-story, the construction of a 2-story detached dwelling. Do you see that? You have to unmute yourself.
Yeah, I do see that. And
yeah, so that's the summary of your notice, and then underneath that will be the variance that they're requesting to match that proposed development. And then you'd have to go to the agendas and meetings at oakville.ca under the Committee of Adjustment in order to find any more details than that. I hope that answers your question.
It answers my question. The assumption I made was that when it says a construction of a 2-story detached, well, there's already a house there, and I thought they were talking about taking the garage and making it into a separate dwelling. Was simply the way I assumed that in the absence of digging into further into it.
Yes, but, I understand that.
No, if this ever comes up again, I know more.
Okay. Okay.
Thank you.
Well, thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Have a good night. Okay, moving on to application 150 of 2025 at 174 Chartwell Road. Again, that's application 150 of 2025 at 174 Chartwell Road. I have Mr. Martino here as the agent, or Mr. Roche.
Madam Chair, I've moved Terry Martino in.
Thank you.
Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the committee. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, go ahead, Mr. Martino.
Thank you. My name is Terry Martino with Grenweiss Design Studio, 341 Kerr Street in Oakville, and we are the agents for the owners at 174 Chartwell Road. The application tonight that we're here before you is for two variances. One to permit total floor area of private garage of 60.98 meters squared, and the second variance to increase the maximum height of the dwelling to 9.59 meters where the 9 meters is permitted. If I could have staff put up slide 3, please, the site plan. Our client wishes to construct a new dwelling on the property, so he's going to demolish the one as indicated there in the dashed lines and construct a new 1.5-story residence. The design reorients the new dwelling to face onto Michael Terrace. This has two advantages. One is any of the traffic going into the driveway and out would be on the quieter side road rather than Chartwell Road, and also maximizes the depth and rear amenity yard space, maximizing the depth of the lot. The first variance is an increase. Oh, if I could have slide 4, please, from staff. As I mentioned, the first variance is to increase the permitted garage floor area. This floor area is approximately 50 square feet, and it's for additional storage. I believe the intent of limiting the floor area of the garage is so it doesn't become the dominant feature of the dwelling. As you can see, and as staff has written in their report, the garage is located on the left side of the top drawing there on slide 4. You can see that the garage doors are articulated, and obviously the garage is not the dominant feature of the property, or at least of the dwelling. The second variance for the increase in height, you can see the shaded area. It's just the very, very peak of the roof. That's just has to do with the geometry of the roof. The intent is that we've brought the eaves down at the side property lines, both east and west, to be 1 story in nature. The height of the overage at the 9.59 is away from Chartwell Road property line, some 46.5 feet. And to the western neighbor's property, it's about 37 feet. I've read the staff report and we concur with their conclusions, and we believe that both variances are minor in nature. They meet the intent of the official plan in the zoning bylaw and further meet the guidelines for the infill development and stable residential communities. I'd be happy to answer any questions. If I could have staff put up slide 1. I'd be happy to answer any questions. Thank you. That the committee may have.
Okay. Any questions or items of clarification of Mr. Martino? Go ahead, Mr. Dickey.
I'll just make the comment. Usually when we see three-car garage, we raises red flags, but you've done designed it so it fits in well. So I just, I don't give out compliments, but but well, yeah, this is unusual that we that me anyhow. that you did a good job. You wanted your 3-car garage. You did a good job in your design to make it non-dump. Thank you.
I appreciate that, sir. Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, has anyone called with interest for this application, Madam Secretary Treasurer?
No, Madam Chair, there have been no calls and there's no one with their hand up.
Okay, very well. Who would like to move a motion? Go ahead, Ms. Price. You are muted again.
Sorry.
Okay.
Taking into consideration my site visit, summations by the agent, owner, and town staff, I believe the proposed variance meet the 4 tests of the Planning Act. I note there are no letters of opposition. I therefore recommend the application be approved, subject to the following conditions. The dwelling be constructed in general accordance with the submitted site plan and elevation drawings dated October 8th, 2025. And that the approval expires 2 years from the date of the decision if a building permit has not been issued for the proposed construction.
Thank you. Is there discussion on this recommendation? See none. All those in support? Okay, the application has been approved. None opposed.
Thank you very much. Have a great evening.
Good night. Application 152 of 2025 at 463 Candler Road. Again, that's application 152 of 2025 at 463 Candler Road.
Hello, once again, Madam Chair, committee members, Peter Giordano, David Small Designs.
Go ahead, Mr. Giordano.
Thank you. If I could ask staff, please, to display slide number 3. And I'd like to start by saying that we were a little disappointed to read planning staff reports received last Friday, and they stated that they were not in support of our application. We were not notified in advance, and we were hopeful that if they had issues with the application, that they would have, allowing us to discuss this further. Even though we did not agree with their conclusions, the negative staff comments for us typically result in a deferral request. We had thorough discussions with our client, discussed the options with them. He asked specifically that we proceed forward with our presentation, but specifically asked us to read the statement that he prepared on his behalf. So I'll just go ahead and read that as follows. My name is Hansen Shia, the owner of 463 Candler Road. Thank you for the opportunity to be heard tonight. Candler Road is a very small and close-knit street. There are only 12 homes along the entire 190-meter length, making it one of the shortest streets in Oakville. Because of its limited size and stable character, I fully understand the importance of ensuring that a new construction fit harmoniously into the neighborhood. That has always been my goal. Over the past decade, 3 new detached homes have been built on our street. From the information that I've been able to obtain, I being our client, at least 2 of them have a residential floor area ratio exceeding 48%. In contrast, my proposal is for 47% FAR, which is more modest and well within the character already established on Candler Road. I truly believe the proposal meets the intent of policies 11.1.9 and 11.1.4 of the Livable Oakville Plan. That new development should be compatible with the surrounding neighbors and neighborhood in terms of scale, height, massing, and architectural character. To ensure that high quality design, he had engaged David Small Designs, our firm, well known for creative, context-sensitive, award-winning homes. He chose to work with us on a refined prairie-style home that emphasizes a balance of proportion connected to its surroundings. I believe this home will not only complement the existing streetscape, but also enhance the livability and architectural quality of Candler Road. It will blend respectfully with the neighboring homes, maintaining privacy and shadowing standards, contribute positively to the community's long-term values. Given the size of our street and a few examples of recent redevelopment, approving this modest 47% FAR will not set any precedents for uncontrolled intensification. Rather, it presents a reasonable and context appropriate renewal that affects the intent of Oakville planning vision. A livable, beautiful town that grows responsibly. Thank you very much for your time and thoughtful consideration. So those were his words. And I would finish it off by stating, as you could see on the image, the slide that we have on our screen, that from our perspective, the left side variance is specific only to the 20-inch wide pier projection that projects 8 inches. The remaining of that portion of that side yard is fully in compliance at 1.25 meters. Regarding the front yard projection, it only relates to the subterranean space below grade. The little toned area that I have on the screen in yellow is the portion that creates the front yard variance. So really what this comes down to is the total floor area, the floor area ratio. Fundamentally, that's the question. We find it to be in keeping with the character of the adjacent homes in the neighborhood, similar to what our client had referred to in his speech. I'll leave it up to you to pass judgment, and have any questions, feel free to ask, please.
Thank you, Mr. Giordano. Any questions? Mr. Dickey.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm concerned about the residential floor area. And it's one thing to say, yes, the zoning bylaw has 41% coverage residential floor area, and you're going for 47%. But what I'm concerned about is you have a huge open to below area, and that increases the mass and scale of the house. And that's where it turns around. And just, I do my math a different way, but to me, the difference between 41% and 47%, not in just subtracting the 6%, just dividing them through, means the house is going to be 14.6% bigger than the zoning bylaw on the residential floor area. Then when you can take into account the open to below area and do that same math of dividing, the house would be 23% higher than what the zoning bylaw would. The size of the house would be 23% higher than what the zoning bylaw would normally permit. To me, I know we're not supposed to look at numerical numbers and mathematical numbers like that, but to me, you're way beyond the definition of minor when you're doing that. Now, point out to me something that's wrong, that have I misinterpreted the open to below area and its effect on the mass and scale of the house? Please defend yourself in that matter. Thank you.
Thank you. Through you, Madam Chair, to Member Dickey. Yeah, I'm not disagreeing with that statement. I guess what we've done to attempt to mitigate that is there's a lot of glass in this prairie style design. So the massing tends to be reduced with corner windows. We've got an articulation of the front. If you see the front facade, it does step back in quite dramatically, and all be as of right on the side yard and on the front yard. So we've done what we can with change of material. We've done what we can with the articulation on the front. I understand your statement, and that's really the rear left corner of the house that has a 2-story volume of space in the back there. We don't see that necessarily as an impact on the neighboring home, but I understand your question, and I understand that we are higher. We are, I guess, 6% higher FAR, but we're working. I guess what we were doing as a comparable was the home next to it, which is 2% higher, with a chateau style house design, which is far less articulated and the home directly across the street, which has the same number. It's about 49%. So those two homes, as our client had made in his statement, tend to bring the character of that neighborhood at around 49% FAR. Whether or not that's a rationale for ours being slightly lower and still lower, I would leave that up to your interpretation.
Mr. Giordano, how much of the approximately 452 square feet is accounted for by your open to below space?
I think we did a comparison of that, and it's about half of that amount.
Okay. So really livable of that increase is half of that.
Correct.
Okay. Any questions? Mr. Tarowski?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Giordano, can you help me out in my interpretation of the site plan? It appears that the flat roof over the face of the garage extends further forward than the porch. Is that considered an eave and not subject to the setback? I thought I heard you mention that the front yard setback variance applied only to the porch, but it appears the garage roof, the flat roof at the front of the garage actually extends further into the front yard.
I believe through you, Madam Chair, to Member Taluski, that is a permittable encroachment. At least that's the way it was interpreted when we discussed that with the zoning examiner. That was permitted.
Thank you.
And I will point out as well that we have a planter in the front and a portion of that front projection as well that has space below it. So there is a cold room below the front porch projection, and then there's a little three-piece bathroom underneath that front porch. If those spaces were not within that basement space, then those would be a permitted encroachment as well. It's the fact that there's habitable space, but of course that's entirely below grade.
Okay. Any other questions? Has anyone called with interest for this application, Madam Secretary Treasurer?
No, Madam Chair, there have been no calls and nobody has their hand up.
Okay. Who would like to move a motion? Go ahead, Mr. Talowski.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, my thinking, Member Dickey, seems to be quite similar tonight. I think it's unfortunate that the applicant didn't seek a deferral. I don't know that this application is that far off being able to be approved. I think the flaw made in the statement is that it's purely based on math, and that is not how the variances work. They're based on impact and my assessment, and not unlike Lakeshore Road, there doesn't seem to have been any true attempt to mitigate the size of this building. I would disagree on the significant setbacks in the front facade of this design. There have been some. I don't know that I would say they're significant, but it is a very large structure accentuated by the open to below spaces, Member Dickey pointed out, and there doesn't really seem to have been an effort made to mitigate the impact of the mass of what is essentially a very large two-story building with primarily two-story straight walls. Madam Chair, I agree with staff in this regard. I don't think it's that far off, but I don't think it's where it needs to be in this context. So with that, Madam Chair, I'm going to move that this application be denied. I do not believe that the variances being requested are minor or desirable in their current form.
Thank you. Is there discussion on this recommendation? Okay, all those in support of the denial? Okay, the application has been denied, none opposed.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Have a good night. Application 120 of 2025 at 579 Stone Cliff Road. Again, that's application 120 of 2025 at 579 Stone Cliff Road. This was deferred from September the 3rd.
Madam Chair, I've moved in Shane Edwards, who I believe is a colleague of Curtis Van Kulen's.
Okay, very well, thank you.
Good evening, Madam Chair. Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead, Mr. Edwards.
Good evening, Madam Chair, committee members. My name is Shane Edwards from Hughes Design Studio, located at 1A Conestoga Drive, Brampton, Ontario. We're the applicants representing the owners for 579 Stonecliff Road, application number A120-2025, and I'll be speaking to the application this evening. This application is rather straightforward, so I'll briefly run through the three variances that we're requesting. The first variance is regarding the maximum residential floor area for lots between 650 and 742.99 square meters, which shall be 41%. We're proposing a total RFA of 44.57%, which is a 3.57% overage. As you mentioned, Madam Chair, this application was deferred from the September 3rd hearing, and we did spend some time working with planning staff to make some revisions to the design. The overall RFA has been reduced from 45.95%, which is a further 1.38%. And we did make several revisions to the massing of the dwelling. If we could please pull up page 8 of the supporting documents, there are some illustrations as to what these exact revisions were. Thank you very much. So basically, we pushed the first story architectural bump out features around the two front windows on either side of the front door. We pushed those forward in an attempt to make the second story appear set back. And we pushed in the second floor exterior wall, you can see at the left above the garage. And then on the rear elevation, which is at the lower end of that page, you can see at the left of that elevation as well, we pushed the second floor of which is the open to above area over the great room in as well. And this is all in an attempt to make the overall visual massing of the second floor more diminutive when viewed from the road and also from the sides. We also did push the great room at the rear, the roof of that portion down. And if you flip to the next page, page 9, I believe, it shows from the side that that roof has been pushed down significantly as well. Again, which is to make the design a bit more sympathetic and to reduce the visual impact of that second story. We do believe the redesign is more sympathetic in this regard, and staff did concur this as well. The second variance is regarding the maximum lot coverage, which shall be 35%. We're proposing a total of 36.27%, which is a 1.27% overage. With this variance, I want to point out that the dwelling itself does actually comply with 35%, and the overage is attributed to the covered rear terrace. If you please flip to page 7 of the supporting documents, there's an illustration here as well. There. So this is a scale diagram of the site, and you can see the green outline at the rear. That's the covered terrace area, which is included fully in the calculation, and that's what's pushing us over and causing the slight overage. The third variance is regarding the front yard setback, which shall be the legally existing setback less 1 meter. In this instance, the required minimum front yard setback would be 9.68 meters, and we're proposing 9.02 meters, which is 0.66 meters closer, or just over 2 feet. I do want to point out for this variance as well, if we can look at the same diagram here, that although we're 0.66 meters closer to the front property line, the front porch bump out at the front, if you will, is actually in line with the front main wall of 583 Stonecliff to the west, and is actually a bit further back than 571 Stonecliff to the east. We're obviously also measuring to that front porch, which does bump out from the rest of the main wall. So the main wall is actually further back and would actually comply with the 9.68 meter setback. So I just wanted to point that out. And this illustration kind of shows those projected lines from the neighboring dwellings and shows that we're keeping in line with the neighboring dwellings. With that being said, we do believe our application is minor in nature and meets the 4 tests. And we also note, as per the staff report, that there were no objections from staff. So, Madam Chair, I'd be happy to answer any questions from yourself or the committee at this time.
Very well. Thank you, Mr. Edwards. Any questions or items of clarification of Mr. Edwards at this time? Did we lose Mr. Hardcastle? I can't see him. Oh, there he is. Okay. Any questions or items of clarification? Okay, I see none. Has anyone called with interest for this application, Madam Secretary Treasurer?
No, Madam Chair, there have been no calls and no one has their hand up.
Okay, very well. Then we'll take the matter into committee. Who would like to move a motion? Go ahead, Mr. Dickey.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Based on my review of the owner's application, the site plans, the building elevations, my site visit, the planning staff's report, together with the presentation by the owner's consultant, I am satisfied that the variances are minor in nature and conform to the 4 tests under the Planning Act. And I put forth a motion that the application is, as applied for, be approved subject to the conditions that the dwelling be constructed in general accordance with the submitted site plan and elevation drawings dated October 6th, 2025, and that the approval expire 2 years from the date of the decision. The building permit has not been issued for the proposed construction.
Thank you, Mr. Dickey. Is there discussion on this recommendation? Seeing none, all those in support? Okay, the application has been approved, none opposed.
Thank you very much.
Have a good evening.
You as well.
Last application of the night. Application 125 of 2025, deferred from September the 3rd at 248 Morris Drive. Again, that's application 125 of 2025 at 248 Morris Drive. I have Mr. Michael Barton.
Good evening, members of the committee. This is Michael Barton. My address 1489 Abbeywood Drive in Oakville. I am the agent for the applicant, or for the owner, sorry.
Go ahead, Mr. Barton.
Thank you. Yes, so this is an item that was deferred at the September 3rd meeting. It's gone through a fair amount of discussion with town staff. At the time of pre-consultation, originally, a number of modifications were made to address the staff concerns. When we came back and to committee on September 3rd with 4 variances, we did defer at that time to give us some more opportunity. So since that time, we have removed 3 of the 4 variances. So that included bringing the height down to the maximum. So we are now just asking for a floor area ratio variance. So the house has been designed to fit within the permitted building envelope. So as I'm sure the members noticed in visiting the neighborhood, it's clear that the neighborhood is characterized by a variety of dwelling types. We see 1-story and 2 stories in this neighborhood, but it is quite clear there are a number of examples of new builds constructed adjacent to the 1 stories. So it really is looking at how these buildings interrelate with one another. So that was what when we were discussing this with staff, that was what some of the concerns they were they had raised was the the massing. So we have designed the massing in a manner that take into consideration the neighborhood character. We've looked at what we can do to provide appropriate transition, as well as, like I said, we're providing a considerable amount of open space on the site exceeding the maximum lot coverage, providing all of the required setbacks, height, so effectively sitting within the permitted building envelope. It's been designed with the second floor smaller than the ground floor to help reduce the massing. We can see from the design the articulation and height and roof that's been provided to help provide that as well. The floor space index is consistent with the approvals that we've already seen in the neighborhood at 225 Maurice and 204 Mary. Again, the side yard setbacks actually exceed the minimum requirement with the aim of providing appropriate transition and buffer to the neighboring lots. So again, I agree with the comments of staff. I feel as though the revisions that were made to the proposal since the deferral and the reduction in variances has helped to ensure that the building will fit in with the neighborhood. Again, the floor area ratio understanding, the intent there is to ensure that there's appropriate massing. I feel through the design, the provision of the setbacks and the open space on the property, certainly seeking to balance that, transition of new builds that are obviously going to be larger than the one-story buildings that are there today, but doing that in a manner that fits within that building envelope that's permitted under the zoning. So my opinion is it does meet the four tests, but welcome any questions from committee.
Very well, thank you. Any questions of Mr. Barton at this time? Any items of clarification? Okay, I see none. Has anyone called with interest for this application, Madam Secretary Treasurer?
No, Madam Chair, there have been no calls and no one has their hand up.
Okay. Very well. Who would like to move a motion? Go ahead, Mr. Hardcastle.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Having undertaken my site visit, having reviewed the materials, including the written staff report, having heard the presentation from Mr. Barton, I'm satisfied that the requested variance and the proposal as modified conforms to the four tests of the Act. Accordingly, I'll put forward a motion of approval subject to two conditions, those being that the dwelling be constructed in general accordance with the submitted site plan and elevation drawings dated February 2025, and that the approval will expire within 2 years of the date of the decision. Would note that there were no members of the public present with respect to this.
Very well, thank you. Are there any discussions on this recommendation? I see none. All those in support? The application has been approved, none opposed.
Thank you.
Have a good night. We have minutes to confirm for October the 29th meeting. Thank you, Mr. Hardcastle. And motion to adjourn. Thank you, Mr. Hardcastle. We are adjourned at 8:43.